right, say hi, friends.
Hi.
Do you like my new haircut?
Okay, go ahead. You guys have jokes to share?
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance?
Why?
Because he had no body to go with.
All right, Luke, you got a joke?
What do sea monsters eat?
What?
Fish and ships.
Haha, not ships, but ships. Okay, third graders. Today, one of your assignments is to read a book.
I can't get
And it's okay if you can't see yourself. It's to read a book, and then you're going to compare how the character changes throughout the story. And so I have a favorite book of mine, and I know if you were in Miss Valdez's class last year, you definitely read this because we let her borrow it to read to you, but it's a book that we like to read over and over again. And in this story, the character changes from the beginning to the end, kind of like whatever you're going to be reading today. And so we thought we would read this story with you, and we could think aloud about the changes that we notice. And sometimes the author gives us clues that there's about to be a change. So when we're practicing this, when we're reading this today, you can be thinking about maybe some signal words or things that an author might do to help you know that there's a change in the story or there's a change in the character's behavior. So we're going to read to you The Recess Queen.
Can you switch off the pages?
You want to switch off? Sure. All right. Do you want to read first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mean Jean was recess queen, and nobody said any different. Nobody swung until Mean Jean swung. Nobody kicked until Mean Jean kicked. Nobody bounced until Mean Jean bounced.
Okay. If kids ever crossed her, she'd push 'em and smush 'em and lollapaloosh 'em, hammer 'em and slammer 'em and kitten could jammer 'em. Ooh. Does not look like somebody I'd want to run across on the playground.
Say what? Mean Jean growled. Say who? Mean Jean howled. Say you. Just who do you think you're talking to? Mean Jean always got her way. Until one day...
We're going to stop there real quick because do you see what the author did there? He said Mean Jean got her way until one day, ... So that's a big clue to me as a reader that something is about to change, right? And what are those called, Lucy?
Ellipses.
Ellipses, yep. So that's telling you the idea's continued, but I think something's about to change because it says she always got her way until one day. So when you're reading, you look for words or clues that the author gives you to help you notice when a change is going to happen. You want to help read the next page? You want to help me read the next page, folks? Okay, ready?
A new kid came to school. Katie Sue, a tiny kid. A teeny kid. A teeny kid.
A teeny kid, a tiny kid.
A kid you might scare with a
jump and a
boo.
Ooh, so a teeny tiny kid came to school. One you might scare with a jump and a boo. Can I read the next page real quick? I gotta read that. Actually, let me just.
Then I get two.
But when the recess bell went ringety ringy, the kids ran zingety zingy for the playground gate. Katie Sue swung
Can I read this?
before Mean Jean swung. You can read it with me. Ready? Katie Sue kicked before Mean Jean kicked. Katie Sue bounced before Mean Jean bounced. The kid you might scare with a jump and a
Boo.
was too new to know about Mean Jean, the recess queen. So maybe we don't see Jean changing here, but do we see anything changing? Recess changed today, didn't it? Normally the kids didn't swing before Mean Jean swung, or kick before Mean Jean kicked, or bounce before Mean Jean bounced. And today, Katie Sue did. So I'm wondering as a reader, what is going to happen? How do you think Mean Jean is going to handle Katie Sue doing all of this before her?
Well, Mean Jean bullied through the playground crowd. Like always, she pushed kids and smushed kids. Alaka pushed kids, hammered them, slammed them, kids and kajammered them. As she charged after that, Katie Sue.
Oh boy, look at those poor kids.
Say what? She growled. Say who? She howled. Say you. She snarled and grabbed Katie Sue by the collar. Nobody swings until Queen Jean swings. Nobody kicks until Queen Jean kicks. Nobody bounces until Queen Jean bounces. And she figured that would set the record straight.
That's my turn.
Can we read it together?
No.
Okay. So she figured that would set the record straight. Let's see if she
She figured
wrong.
wrong.
Ooh, let's listen to that. She figured wrong. So she figured that would set the record straight, but she figured wrong. That right there, as a reader, tells me this isn't going to go the way it normally goes. That's a big clue. Mean Jean thought she could just make Katie Sue listen to her, but Mean Jean figured wrong. Katie Sue talked back.
Just as
Sassy.
sassy as could be, she said. How did you get so bossy? Then that puny thing tossed
That
that
loony thing. Let me read these words, okay? Because they're long. Grabbed the ball and bounced away.
Oh, Katie Sue was one quick kid. She
Bolted.
quick as lightning.
Bouncity, bouncity, bounce. Kickity, kickity, kick. Swingity, swingity, swing. Look at that, Katie Sue. So, Mean Jean told her she couldn't bounce or kick until she did, but did Katie Sue listen to Mean Jean? No. She just said, "How did you get so bossy?" And she kept on playing.
Mean Jean thundered close behind. Bouncity, kickity, swingity. The recess queen was not amused. She raced and chased in your face, that Katie Sue. No one spoke, no one moved, no one breathed.
Everybody seems pretty scared because this is different than usual at recess.
Look at this dude.
Can I have a turn? Usually, how about we take turns with sentence? Then from her pack pulled Katie Sue,
A jump rope called
clean and bright. Hey, Jeannie Beanie, sang Katie Sue.
Let's
Try this jump rope out. Here's one thing true. Until that day, no one dared ask Mean Jean to play.
But
Ooh, so that's another clue as a reader. This is different because they said until that day, no one dared ask Jean Mean to play. So this never happened before. Another clue that something's different. But that Katie Sue just hopped and jumped and skipped away. I like ice cream. I like tea.
no, I want Jean to jump with me.
Jean just gaped and stared as if too scared to move at all. Now I'm going to stop as a reader because I think, look at Mean Jean's face. Does that look like her face from before? If I go back to the beginning and look at that Mean Jean's face, ooh, that does not look like the same Mean Jean to me. That's the same character. And I'm just wondering, does that seem like Mean Jean to be scared? That seems like something's changing, right? So she just stared as if too scared to move at all.
So Katie Sue
Sang once
more. I like
corn. I like tea. I want Jean to jump with me. What do you think Jean's gonna do?
jump with her.
Some of you might know because you've read it before, but if you didn't, you can make a prediction. What do you think Jean's going to do? Go ahead.
Jump.
Then, from the side, a kid called out, "Go, Jean, go!" And too surprised to even shout, Jean jumped in Katie Sue. In with Katie Sue. I like cookies. I like tea. I want you to jump with me.
Oh, so look at that. Katie, Sue, and Jean are jumping rope.
The rope whizzed and slapped. Faster, faster. The rope spun and flapped. Faster, faster. Till it caught in a dangled disaster. But they just giggled and jumped again.
So now here, look again. They're giggling and they're having fun. Even though the jump rope got all tangled up, they're still having fun. Does that seem like the Jean we knew in the beginning of the story? No, right? It certainly doesn't. Well, now when recess rolls around, that playground's one great place. So also a clue is when the author says now. That means it was different before. But now when recess comes around, that playground's one great place. At the school bells ringety-ringy, those two girls race zingety-zingy out the classroom door. Jean doesn't push kids and smush kids, lollapaloosh kids, hammer-um, slammer-um, kitsen, kajammer-um, because she's having too much fun rompity-romping with her friends. So, when I think about the question we started with was how does our character change from the beginning to the end of the story? I think it's pretty clear that Jean is different at the end of the story. Bouncity, kickity, swingity, hippity, hoppity, jumpity, ringity, zingity, yes. So what we're going to do here is because sometimes it's tricky when we have to, I'm just going to keep it here, Bob. It's tricky when we have to write about our thoughts because if I asked you, how did the character change from the beginning to the end of the story, what would you guys say?
It was mean and then it was happy.
Who's it? I always want to make sure I'm using the character's name.
So Jean was mean. Jean was nice.
So we would want to say Jean was mean when?
In the beginning.
Then and in the middle she was surprised.
Yeah, she was shocked, and at the end
she was like happy and like everyone got to play.
Yeah.
Before in the beginning, no one got to play.
Right. So can we not do that? So we could just say, oh, so Jean was mean, or we might even use more descriptive words, like maybe Jean was a bully, or she was rude in the beginning, and then at the end she was nice. But is that all we can? Is that enough to write about when we think about and explain a story? We want to go a little bit deeper and give examples from the text. And this is probably going to be backwards for you now that I just realized that. So the question was, how does the character change from the beginning to the end of the story? What I'm going to send to your parents is something that can help you. You guys can use this together. You can write your answer here, right? So Jean was, what do we want to say? Jean was awful. We want to kind of describe Jean was a bully or Jean was mean to others.
Jean was a jerk.
That's not. Jean was a bully in the beginning, and then what?
And then
She became a nice friend.
a nice friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is that good enough to write?
No.
No, right? That's not giving our details or explaining what happened in the story. If I had never read this book before, I would just be like, what are you talking about? So she was nice and then she wasn't. Okay. Or she wasn't nice and then she was. So we need to give examples from the text. What would be an example of Mean Gene being a bully? Can you think of it? Well, before we just go and write it, we should probably look in the text, right? Because it says text example. So what's an example?
She pushed everyone.
Okay, so we can say a text example is she pushed. She pushed kids, right? She pushed kids on the playground.
She smushed kids.
She pushed kids, she smushed kids, she palushed kids, right? She hammered them and slammered them.
Kids and could hammer them.
So I can look right here on this page, and this is giving me a lot of text evidence of the way that Gene was a bully. So I'm going to say she pushed.
She pushed. She kicked.
She pushed, she kicked. Okay. Other kids, right? We want to be clear on what she did. She didn't push the slide, or that we want to be specific about what she pushed. She pushed other kids. All right. So now I have to prove why that makes her a bully. So this is where we have to use what we already know to help us come together and describe why that makes her a bully. So we can say, I know when people hurt others, or I know when people make others feel uncomfortable over and over again, because a bully is not somebody who just makes a mistake once. I know that a bully is somebody who does things over and over and over again. And this was something Gene did over and over again. So I might say, prove it. A bully is someone who is mean to kids over and over, right? Now, what this just did for me, a bully is someone who is mean to kids over and over. Now, what this did for me, is this my writing? Is this how you turn writing into your teacher? No. We call this an organizer. So now that my thoughts are organized, I can use this to help me write. Okay?
Blue.
Can you give me a piece of construction paper? Now, what I'm also going to send to your parents is this. This is going to help you write your story, or your essay, your response. When our first sentence is going to be in the book, and you're going to write the title of the book that you read. In our case, in the book, The Recess Queen, and then we restate that question. So I would write, in the book, The Recess Queen. What would I write? How could I restate that question? I could write, in the book, The Recess Queen, Gene. Well, let's see. What was our question? How does the character change from the beginning to the end of the story? I can say Gene was mean, or Gene was we use the word bully. Gene was a bully to her classmates. I hope I said in the beginning, right? In the book, The Recess Queen, Gene was a bully to her classmates in the beginning. We don't actually have to write it all out, because that would be a long time, right? So we could say that. So then we just wrote that first sentence. Thank you, Bobby. So we wrote that first sentence. So Mean Gene was a bully to her friends in the beginning.
Her friends.
Or her classmates, right? Because you're right, they weren't her friends. Now, do you remember those signal words I sent you a while ago for comparing and contrasting? We can say, now we're going to say how she's different. So we could choose one of those different contrasting words. So we can say, however, at the end of the story, she becomes a good friend. So Luke, if you want to write this, we could send them a picture of it later.
Okay.
That's my first sentence. Now, how do I start talking about the story? We use transitions. We can say, for example, oh, what if I can't think of an example? You have it right here. For example, she pushes kids. She kicks kids, right? She palushes kids. And that's just the example, but we have to prove, remember, we have to prove or show the text evidence that that what she's doing is not very nice. So in the story, she pushes, well, this could actually be both, the text evidence and the transitions. You're just going to use this transition lots of times. So in the story, she pushes kids, she smushes kids,
she allipolishes kids.
This shows that Jean is a bully because she does it over and over again. So that, hold on one second. That's your Molly, can you please not do that? That's your interpretation. That's what you're bringing, what you know to the story or to your writing. And then you can say how she changes. However, or this is different from, or she changes. You can use some of those signal words to show how she changes. At the end of the story, she is different. She becomes kind, or she becomes a good friend. One example that shows her being nice, and then you would share an example. What's an example of Jean being nice in this story? She jump ropes with Katie Sue. She giggles when they get tangled up. And we can even say, in the story, the author says, Jean doesn't push kids and smush kids because she's too busy, or she's having too much fun romping with her friends. And so that could be the example. And at the very end, we don't want to just leave it there. We want to add a conclusion. We want to say, this shows that Jean changed throughout the story, right? Her personality changed. The thing she did in the beginning was different than the thing she did at the end. So you want to wrap it up with a conclusion. All right, my friends, I hope that wasn't too long or too much, but I hope that helps you when you're thinking about your reading and the stories that you are going to read. I'll send some examples of what you can do to help with your writing, and we'll share Luke's writing too. Have a good day.